CTV News with Caroline Van Vlartigan.
Good evening. The hockey community was shaken today by news of the sudden death of Claude Lemieux. Lemieux was one of the toughest former players in the NHL and was only 60 years old. And his death comes just days after he appeared at the Bell Centre before a playoff game. Here's Kelly Gregg.
Lemieux and Montreal has won the Adams Division Final.
It was clutch goals and grit that defined Claude Lemieux's 14-year NHL career. The news of his death at 60 years old coming as a shock, especially since Lemieux was a torchbearer at the Habs game 4 days ago.
For 5-10 minutes there, I was just trying to find out if it was true. I was happy to see him on Monday, just to kind of talk about a little bit what he was doing. He was there with his two sons, so it's a big shock.
I was really happy to see him at the Bell Centre earlier this week. Glad to see the welcome he got from the crowd at the Bell Centre, and I hope that brought him peace.
From Buckingham, Quebec, Lemieux raised the Stanley Cup for the first time in 1986 as a rookie. He would do it again 3 more times, adding a Conn Smythe as playoff MVP to his resume in 1995. But it was tough play that was his hallmark, that sometimes went too far. During a fight, Lemieux infamously bit the finger of a rival, claiming afterwards he might have chipped his tooth during the scrum.
We tangled. We said a lot of bad words to each other that I will not repeat today, but he was funny, and he was probably one of the wittiest guy. He would come back with a line that you thought you had him, but he would come back with a line that would destroy you.
But there was also a softer side. When Joël Bouchard joined the Phoenix Coyotes in 2000, Lemieux invited the younger player to live with him.
It's so sad to lose somebody that was so authentic. He was just a solid person that you could have a lot of conversation with about any topic. It's way too soon and way too early to lose somebody like that.
Despite playing for 6 teams, Lemieux held a soft spot for the Canadiens. Serge Savard was the GM of that 1986 team, but also the one who traded Lemieux to New Jersey. They spoke just a few weeks ago to organize a reunion.
To my surprise, when I talked to him, he was very happy to come. He mentioned he was the highlight of his career, and he was so proud.
Lemieux leaves behind his wife, 4 children, and a city stunned by the sudden loss. Kelly Gregg, CTV News.
And we will hear more from Serge Savard about Claude Lemieux a little later on in our newscast. A Quebec tenant's legal battle over their pets is now back in court. At the center of the fight, whether landlords should be allowed to ban pets from rental housing. Laurence Buisson-Dubois explains.
After winning a landmark battle at Quebec's housing tribunal, M. Desjardins is back in court. The tenant is now fighting to preserve a decision that declared their lease's no pet clause invalid.
This whole ordeal has been really stressful. It's been going on for years. And once I think I got 1 month to celebrate, or to be like, oh, it's finally over, and then they asked for an appeal.
Earlier this year, the tribunal ruled the clause was abusive and violated Quebec's Charter of Rights. Thursday, a Quebec court judge heard a request to appeal that decision. Desjardins' lawyer says the outcome would impact renters far beyond this case.
A lot of tenants that contacted us also, they feel that their situation is similar. They can use that decision and plead their own case.
Sophie Gaillard is with the Montreal SPCA, an intervener in the case. She says the housing crisis is making pet-friendly rentals harder than ever to find.
We currently have about 30 animals coming in every day being surrendered, and one of the top reasons is the difficulty of finding animal-friendly housing.
A new Léger study commissioned by the SPCA highlights just how widespread the issue has become. Results show 87% of landlords across Quebec refuse animals or impose restrictions, and in the Greater Montreal area, that number climbs to 89%. Advocates are now calling on the Quebec government to step in and ban no-pet clauses altogether.
As has been done in Ontario, as has been done in France and other places across the world.
For now, Desjardins is waiting to learn whether the case will move forward. But after years of fighting, they say they're not giving up.
I'm hoping that he'll stick to the law and use empathy. I really hope so.
There's no timeline yet for the judge's decision. Laurence Brisson-Dubreuil, CTV News.
Well, it seems that the honeymoon for the new premier is over. Premier Christine Fréchette was questioned yesterday about her government's finances and had no answers. Here's Matt Grillo.
It can be a challenging exercise for a premier. For hours, they sit in front of opposition parties who question the premier at length about government spending. On Wednesday, Christine Fréchette faced a question from the Liberals' André Fortin about an upcoming increase in insurance tax.
Vous augmentez le taux de taxation. Vous n'étiez pas au courant de ça?
Starting in January, Quebec will increase its tax on insurance products.
J'étais pas nécessairement au fait du détail de cette augmentation.
Fréchette admitted she was not aware. She explained that when the announcement was made, she was economy minister and it wasn't her portfolio. The premier clarified it would cost a family about $39.
She's supposed to be more have more information, data about those topics than us. They have all an entourage with her.
But that's not all. Fortin asked the premier what is Quebec's net debt.
C'est quoi la dette nette au Québec aujourd'hui?
La dette nette.
The premier could not come up with a dollar figure. Fortin informed her it's $259 billion.
For her not to know the level of Quebec debt means that there's no consideration on her part, on her government's part, about what we are transmitting to future generations, what we are leaving for future generations. We're going to have to pay for that debt eventually.
Opposition parties say it's surprising because Fréchette wants to help Quebecers with the cost of living.
The last week shows that Christine Fréchette is not about being an economic premier. She's quite the same thing as François Legault.
Of all the information a premier should know, the Liberals say an upcoming tax increase and the province's debt should be at the top of the list.
Not knowing where we're at, not knowing what we're passing on to future generations is a problem. And I hope the premier recognizes that now, if she didn't for the past 4 years that she's been here at the Assembly.
Starting next week, the intensive period begins when MNAs spend an extra day at the National Assembly. That will last for 2 weeks. And then the parliamentary session will come to an end for summer break. Matt Grillo, CTV News, Quebec City.
Meantime, Quebec's Commissioner of the French language is recommending that English be removed from all Quebec government websites to set an example. Here's Matt Gilmore.
When you visit a government website like revenuequebec.ca, there's a button at the top right corner that says English. Click it and an English version of the website will appear. But a recent report by the Commissioner of the French language argues government websites should be in French only, with limited exceptions.
The idea of the Charter of the French language in 1977 was to say, let's create spaces within which the use of French will be mandatory, will be required to counterbalance the influence of English.
Benoit Dubreuil is the man tasked by the National Assembly with monitoring the implementation of the Charter. He says when Bill 96 was passed, it included a new idea that the state should set an example.
Basically, it means that the government of Quebec, its agencies and departments should make exclusive use of French unless you are in a situation where an exception applies.
Exceptions like health and safety and services to people with English education eligibility, Indigenous people and newcomers within the first 6 months of their arrival. In 2023, the French language minister insisted the government would rely on the good faith of Quebecers, and banners started appearing on government websites linking to the policy.
From our perspective, this approach is not effective.
Instead, Dubreuil says English online services should only be available after eligible Quebecers have logged in.
If you have like those private spaces where you have to log in, I think the implementation is pretty easy.
But for advocates of the English-speaking community, that's a concerning idea.
We're talking about really surveillance of the English-speaking community. That was our initial argument in the beginning, which is why Mr. Roberge made an abrupt change and offered his promise that it would be on a good faith system.
In Quebec City, Jean-François Robert said he would study the report, but plans to keep the good faith mechanism in place. Matt Gilmore, CTV News.
Quebec's Research Institute has issued a damning report on Quebec's public schools. Here's Angela McKenzie.
Every day, children in Quebec sit in classrooms trying to master ABCs and 1, 2, 3s. But according to researchers with Research Institute IRIS, being in school could make them sick. In a new study, IRIS found 53% of Quebec public schools are in poor or very poor condition.
1/3 of schools who have problem with water quality, with air quality, with ventilation. The schools are a potential problem for public health.
The report's co-author Maxime Fortin says they also looked at the teacher shortage and lack of special needs educators. Meantime, they found the number of unqualified teachers in classrooms spiked 171% between 2013 and 2023.
The aspect of unqualified teachers is one of the striking, astonishing aspect of this study.
Fortin adds for decades, governments didn't invest enough in maintaining schools. So IRIS is recommending massive investments. A total of $3.7 billion per year over 10 years. The bulk of that, $2.8 billion, is to restore school infrastructure and keep up with maintenance. They're also calling for investments in teacher training for unqualified educators.
To just bring the situation to an acceptable condition.
Education Minister Sonia Lebel believes the province is already investing enough in education.
And this year the increase in the budget is of 3%. What we need to maintain the service and even more is 2%. So we have what we need this year to maintain service and provide services for the schools.
But the president of the Quebec English School Boards Association says the current government dropped the ball.
We're in a crisis situation right now in education. I don't think the government either doesn't understand the magnitude of the problem or doesn't care.
With an election around the corner, Fortin hopes all parties will take his recommendations to heart.
We hope that our study will generate discussion, reflection about the state of public education,
so students can have a healthy chance at success. Angela McKenzie, CTV News.
Meantime, a school crossing guard near Royal West Academy will not be back for the next school year. The crossing guard was stationed at the intersection of Westminster Avenue South and Ainsley Road in early April. Parents were concerned because of several collisions involving students in the area. But Quebec guidelines prevent crossing guards from working at high schools, and parents say they were told it would set a bad precedent to keep the guard there.
Honestly, it doesn't sit well given their young ages and just given the complexity of that intersection. I mean, it's challenging for adults to cross that intersection, but to have hundreds of kids as young as age 11 trying to cross it all at once, it makes it very, very difficult. It's a 4-lane road and there is no stoplight. There is a stop sign. But many cars run through the stop sign.
And next week, the Parents Committee will release a survey of the 400 students who use that crosswalk. Well, some REM users on the West Island are finding that their daily commute has gotten more expensive. Here's Olivia O'Malley.
The Kirkland REM station is right beside a massive parking lot. There are thousands of spaces, but they are off limits for people who want to park and ride.
I just got a ticket the other day for $85, and if you don't pay it within the week, they up it to $125.
I got a warning last week. They told me that if I parked here again that I'd get a ticket.
The Kirkland RioCan Centre has hired Stat Park to enforce parking regulations. The company has begun issuing parking fees to REM users who leave their cars in the shopping centre.
I live far away, so I cannot take the bus or whatever. So I need to come with the car, so I need the parking.
Throughout the planning phase for the REM, West Island residents insisted parking was a necessity. But the REM station opened with only 200 parking spots reserved for Kirkland residents at the price of $10 per day.
I paid the $10 parking today.
Okay.
And I'm actually the only car in the paid parking lot, which is a bit crazy.
I think it's absolutely ridiculous.
Safwan El Mamlouk lives in Beaconsfield and uses the REM to get to school downtown. As a commuter who is not a Kirkland resident, it means there is nowhere for him to park without being penalized.
It stays on my mind when I'm away from my car and I'm parked here. I'm willing to take a risk, but I just find that it's unfair.
In a statement, the REM says during the planning phase, parking facilities were integrated where space availability and traffic analyses allowed. Adding, for our Kirkland station, as for our entire network, we remain open to discussions and partnerships and continuously seek to improve access to our stations, whether by public transit, car, or sustainable modes. The Kirkland Mayor's office refused our interview request, saying it is not in a position to provide a full response at this time. Amid the growing demand, however, commuters are looking for a solution. Olivia O'Malley, CTV News.
And still ahead, former Canadiens GM Serge Savard remembers Claude Lemieux.
Download the CTV News app and stay on top of local stories as they unfold.
Increasing number of abandoned buildings.
Customize your feed and watch live wherever you are. CTVMontreal.ca, your home for news.
Well, as we learned earlier today, former Montreal Canadiens player and four-time Stanley Cup winner Claude Lemieux has died. Here now to talk more about his sudden passing is Canadiens Hall of Famer and former general manager Serge Savard. Monsieur Savard, first off, thank you for joining us, and I want to extend our sincere condolences to you and other members of the Canadiens' extended family on this day, which I know has been very difficult.
Yes. Like you guys, I heard about this morning, and it was quite a shock because we saw him Monday, holding the torch before the game, and I talked to him about 3 weeks ago because I invited him at my golf tournament this summer, which I honor the Stanley Cup winner of 1986, and he was a big part of. He had just joined the club. I drafted Claude in my first draft in 1983 in the second round, and he was a local boy, and he spent the year in the minors in 86, and I brought him up only about a month before the end of the season, and scored 10 goals in the playoffs, and one of the most important goals was against Hartford, the second series. We beat Boston that year 2 out of 3 in 3 straight games, and 3 out of 5 3 straight games, and then we got Hartford in the second round, and he scored that goal in overtime, the 7th games here in Montreal, which is, he was a new player on the block, and he scored his most important goals of his career. He scored some winning goals after that, but this one, we were a shot away from being out of the playoff, and we ended up winning the Stanley Cup in '86.
And he was such a playoff player, right? Everyone talks about how there's so much been written about how he was able to just muster up all of that strength for the playoffs, winning 4 cups with 3 different teams. What was it about him that he was able to do that every time?
Well, Claude was big and strong players, very fast, and he bothers the opponent. Nobody likes to play against Claude Lemieux because he was very intense, and so many guys talk to me about him and say, I hate to play against Claude Lemieux. And he's the kind of guys that it's sad to say, but that the Canadian could use last night to shift the tempo, and that's something that he could do. Instead of he took the pressure of the team and put the pressure on the other team, and he was a pretty good scorer. He was a good all-around player that made a difference on the team, and he proved it with 3 different teams.
Yeah, he certainly did. He proved it over and over again. And I know things weren't always easy for you as well as the general manager. He had some issues with, I think, Pat Burns, the coach at the time, and you had to make a decision, and he was traded.
Yeah.
There were tough times too in your relationship, right? But had you mended all that after all the years?
Well, I personally, I did not have any issue with Claude. Every player is different. Obviously, Pat Burns didn't have the recipe to coach Claude Lemieux. Claude Lemieux didn't want to play for him when he left, and it left me with no choice whether I was going to change the coach or trade Lemieux. And it's not one of the trades that I'm most proud of. And I'm very happy for what he did after, because I drafted the guy, I had confidence in him, and he went somewhere else and made a difference on other teams. He was if you look at his stats,
he was a difference maker, right? I think it's fair to say that he made a difference to every team he went to, and he left his mark on that team.
Yeah, he was big and strong players, and it was really hard to reach his top conditioning. And when he did achieve that, he was one of the best players in the league.
Yeah, well, Mr. Savard, we really appreciate your time tonight on what I know has been a long day for all of the Canadians, reflecting on the life and career of Claude Lemieux. And we thank you so much for your time, and again, our condolences to you.
Thank you. This is too young. Thank you.
And fans of the TV series Heated Rivalry can soon own a jacket just like the one worn on the show.
All right, so tonight we can do the men's short form figure skating? Or? My buddy Joe's in that program. We'll train together.
In the series, the character Shane Hollander wears a Team Canada fleece jacket at the Olympics. Retailer Province of Canada says pre-sales for the jackets will start online next week. 10% of the proceeds will go to You Can Play. That's an organization that fights homophobia and other forms of discrimination in hockey.
Menswear provided by Ernest. Elevate your style with Ernest. For breaking news and local news that matters to you, download the CTV News app right now by scanning the QR code on your screen using your smartphone. Or you can also go to our website, ctvnewsmontreal.ca. Weather brought to you by Gratian Scaff's 50th anniversary gift event. Get a complete second pair and sunglasses as a gift.
Well, we started off strong with a mix of sun and clouds and a temperature of 15 degrees for the Montreal area. So warmer than our normal low for this time. That number now sits at 11. And we did move up from there, closer toward that expected high of 21. But there is another number that I want to throw at you. That is the record rainfall for tomorrow, May 29th. So that number sits at 27 millimeters. That's from back in 2012. We could actually break that record with where we're headed. So tonight we're looking at mainly cloudy skies, a temperature of 12 degrees, and then don't be surprised by an overcast start to the day tomorrow as the system starts moving in. We're looking at a wake-up temperature at around 14, and then by afternoon we'll have that move up towards 17, but with those showers. So we are forecasting roughly 30 millimeters for the greater Montreal area. But a note from Environment Canada, depending on where you are in southern Quebec region, that number could range. So that could go anywhere from 20 millimeters all the way to 40. And we'll see the system moving down and over from the northwest. It's going to stick around into tomorrow evening and possibly even early Saturday. So we do see that starting to clear out at around midnight on Saturday. And then good news for the bulk of Saturday. We are looking at a bit of a break. That could look like sun and clouds with a temperature of 18 degrees as the high. Possible reappearance of some rain coming in on Sunday and Monday. And then we should be back to sun and clouds.
And it's going to be a big weekend for cyclists. The Tour la Nuit is tomorrow night and the Tour de l'Île is Sunday. And this year, the Tour la Nuit runs 20 kilometers and begins and ends at Jarry Park and runs from 8 to 11 o'clock. After the race, there'll be festivities at the park with music and food trucks. And then there will also be road closures. This year in Ahuntsic, Cartierville, Saint Laurent, and Villeray, Saint Michel, Park X, and NDG. And there is more information on Le Tour la Nuit and Le Tour de l'Île and the road closures on our website, ctvnewsmontreal.ca. And that'll do it for us tonight. For the latest news, you can listen to the Andrew Carter Morning Show at 5 on CJ 8800. And of course, you can always head to ctvnewsmontreal.ca for extended coverage. Thanks so much for staying up late with us. Have a good night, and we'll see you again tomorrow. Take care.